First Snowflake had barely kissed the air above Lingumbury Grove before Laurel Butterbranch set her copper kettle to heat and tied her apron snug around her waist. In the snug warmth of her tree-hollow kitchen, jars of candied clover and moonlit honey shimmered on the shelves, while Pip lounged atop the table, juggling walnuts he'd pilfered from the market. Laurel eyed him with a mix of affection and exasperation, her hands busy gathering the ingredients for Frostblossom Pudding, the treasured recipe they had promised to bring to the feast of the First Snowflake. Pip, smirking, tossed a walnut high, only for it to thud into the batter bowl. The splash painted his nose with speckles of flour, which he wore like a badge of honor. Laurel sighed, brushing the mess aside with a laugh. She knew mischief was Pip's seasoning of choice. The recipe was a delicate art, demanding time and precision that neither Laurel nor Pip entirely possessed. They worked by firefly light, swirling frost-kissed elderflower nectar into the batter, while Pip tried to sneak in a handful of shimmermint, swearing it would add zing. Laurel swatted his hand away, but let herself laugh as the mint left a trail of silvery sparkles on their work table. The two argued in hushed tones over the exact timing for folding in the crystallized violet petals, consulting Laurel's tiny, dog-eared recipe book as if it were a sacred tome. When the smell of caramelized mushrooms wafted in from a neighboring grove, Pip began drumming a spoon against an empty ladle in hunger. Laurel snapped a finger toward him, and the ladle softened into a daisy, wilting in protest. Pip stuck out his tongue and grabbed a sprig of sweet dandelion to munch on, while Laurel rolled her eyes, though a smile tugged at the corners of her lips. As golden bells chimed overhead to mark the snow's thickening fall, they carefully poured the pale blue batter into a swirl-shaped mold carved from enchanted birchwood. Laurel's fingers trembled, for there was nothing worse than cracking the fragile mold, and Pip, she suspected, held his breath for luck as the pudding slid in perfectly. Still, no moment could go unpunctuated by Pip's antics, who promptly decided to charm the rest of the flour sack into rising like a ghost and chasing Laurel into a squealing, flour-dusted frenzy. When the pudding was finally set in the oven, Laurel retaliated by charming Pip's boots to stick to the floor, leaving him hopping in place until she snapped her fingers to release him. Even in the flurry of chaos, as flower ghosts danced and giggles echoed in the hollow, the insistent scent of Frostblossom Pudding's sugary perfection began to bloom through the kitchen. By the time they arrived at the feast, the pudding gleamed like a gemstone, a cascade of violets and gold-stemmed clover crowning its surface. Fairy lights weaved through the evergreen boughs above, casting shimmering pools of light on the gathered fairies who marveled at Laurel and Pip's creation. Pip wasted no time recounting his flower ghost triumph to unimpressed listeners, though he won over a few with his grin alone, while Laurel busied herself slicing the pudding into delicate spirals. The first bite was heaven, the kind of sweetness that carried the crisp chill of winter and the soft warmth of home. Pip, with a mouthful of pudding, turned to Laurel and muttered something about adding shimmermint next year. Laurel poked his side and hid her smile. Together, they watched a flurry of snowflakes swirl under the glow of 1,000 fireflies, and for a moment, the world of Lingumbury Grove seemed as perfectly enchanted as the pudding itself.